It's Ange Postecoglou here. I was thinking you were the biggest risk of walking off this morning. When you watched...
Depending on the result Wednesday night, yeah.
2 and a bit minutes of Micheal Cheika. What do you think?
Yeah, look, it's such a tough one, I feel, for Michael. I mean, you get so emotionally invested in that, and you can see he's been building this team for quite a while, and there was an opportunity there last night, and you know, human beings, and I guess through his head as he's answering these questions, he's thinking, well, you know, I don't want to be painted as somebody who's making excuses about, you know, the refereeing decisions, and yet he keeps coming, being brought back to that, and then you get blindsided by you said something during the game. He's probably said a million things during the game, and he's probably trying to rifle through his mind at that minute, well, what did I say, when? And you don't want to sort of categorically say something at that moment, so you want to try and deflect. And it's just, you know, as a coach, I guess you try and predict when you go into these things straight after a game how they're going to go, and you try and steer them in a certain way, but sometimes they just get out of control. Did that one get out of control for him, Georgina?
The post-match interview? Yeah. That post-match interview was actually Micheal Cheika self-censored, actually. You know, he straight batted all of them until the swearing issue was brought up, and then he pulled the cord on himself before he actually did, I guess, give someone a piece of their mind. And the television cameras all over the world, he'd probably do well to stay away from them ideas. You know, let's not go down that path with female journos, but it was a hugely frustrating night, and the journalist was doing her job, asking him about the salient issues in the match. That was all that people wanted to talk about, and that's what came out of the match. And Micheal Cheika did his best to keep a lid on his frustration, I think.
Pete, when it ends in the walk-off, for me that's failed at that stage.
I'm surprised more coaches didn't take a leaf out of Jason Gillespie's book. I don't know if you recall, about 10 years ago, asked about the pitch. He said, I'm not allowed to comment about the pitch, but a mate just rang me and said it's the worst pitch he's ever seen in his life.
It's a great strategy. Yeah.
Admirable restraint. I think they should write him a letter and say reasonably well done. Yeah.
You know, Micheal Cheika's been disciplined and fined for you know, his more expansive responses to questions like that. So that's really Micheal just pulling down the shutters.
The question was more about the use of the word cheats rather than the swearing that preceded it. And I think coaches swearing is not news. I can't imagine there are legitimate questions on that. But
it is though news, because Eddie Jones this week was actually had to issue an apology for just swearing. But no, I agree. I don't think the issue in the wash-up is going to be about the effing. It's about what he said after that.
And you know, again, and I can't read Michael's mind, but I think that's the thing that probably would have disturbed him in his mind, is that there's every possibility he might have said that. I've probably said that a few times. I found a creative way to swear. I swear in foreign languages now. I've got a Croatian assistant coach, I'm Greek, so I kind of... Because that's the scrutiny you're under. And again, we're all mindful of the sensitivity and the reach that international sport has, and you try and be on your best behaviour. But like I said, you're so emotionally invested in it at times that straight after a game, you probably go, you know what, I shouldn't have said that. But at that moment, that's not what's going through your mind.
So Australia lost 30-6, which doesn't quite do justice to the passage of the match. It was 17 points in 15 minutes for England at the end. So all of those critical decisions, the 2 no tries and the daily... I mean, it depends which angle you want to take as the truth as to whether that ball touched the side or not. Each was critical in the way that the match unfolded.
They were, particularly the Koroibete no try at the end, where Stephen Moore was found to have obstructed. I think it might have been Chris Robshaw from England. I think that was really what tipped Micheal Cheika over the edge. That's when he came down from his position on high and stood pitch side, I guess turning up the heat and indulging his temperament. And really then I think the issue is, as controversial as all those calls were, that's when the Wallabies dropped their heads. And those 2 tries, you know, I mean, in the fair dinkum department, when they do their post-match analysis, they will not be happy with the fact that, despite everything that had come before, that team let those 2 tries in at the end.
If you indulge the frustrations, Ange, can it have an impact on your players sort of on the spot?
Look, hard to say on the spot, but you are mindful of your messaging, from that kind of scenario, and I'm sure Michael in the postscript of that, his emphasis to his players were more on what Georgie said and saying the opportunity you missed, all this other stuff, and ultimately as the coach, as the leader, you've got to stand up, you've got to be the face of that, and he did that, and that's what really good coaches do. He didn't hide behind saying the players were frustrated, or he said he was, and he's put himself in front there. But in the postscript of analysis, I think they'll be, talking more about the missed opportunities that they could control rather than anything else.
All right, more England, Australia and other codes shortly, but to the events of Wednesday night. Too much of this has been shrouded in negativity, but in the moment of achievement there was a purity, and there was a purity in shoring up the legacy of the coach and the captain in particular.
A campaign lengthier than Miller yet an axe-beard, but still a big job to do in Sydney. Tommy Rogic brought down into the box, Brian Acosta, free kick, dangerous position. Is there a card? There's going to be Miller yet an axe, deflected and in! Australia leads! As he pointed to the penalty spot here, the referee has handball against Brian Acosta. Text of this two-legged tie. Miller yet an axe, fires it home despite a touch by Escobar. And are Australia on their way to Russia? Here's a chance, Robbie Cruz through 1-on-1, this should clinch it. Tucker from behind, penalty. Book your flights, get your match tickets. Australia are going to a fourth consecutive World Cup.
How do you sum it up emotionally?
Oh, look, I think I said after the game it was overwhelmed, and I still am a little bit. It's, again, I said it's the hardest thing I've ever done. I mean, this last 4 years, as a coach, you kind of think the end bit's great and everyone rejoices in that, but you kind of think of the starting point, you kind of think of what you had to go through, all those steps to get to where you are, and particularly the difficult bits when, doubt shrouds everything you do, and you get to it and you see the fruition of it, and you get so much joy just watching the people who've worked hard really celebrating. So
it's clearly taken a toll on you. Yeah. Does that balance off with how much it means to the country? You can't have missed that over the last 4 days.
I think they're both kind of attached. That's why I felt the burden. I guess, as I said, if I was a foreign coach and we didn't qualify, I'd pack my bags, take my family and go home and live in another country, wherever my home is. But this was my home. This is where I live. This is where I've invested my whole life into this game. And I didn't want to be the Australian coach who failed to qualify, because there's even deeper ramifications, because the last time an Australian coach failed to qualify for a World Cup, which was Frank Farina, and I was with him, and he did a really tough shift. The game was on its knees. The next 3 cycles, foreign coaches took over. So I'm going, if I stumble here and we don't, then who knows when another Australian coach will get an opportunity. There was all these things that you carry as a burden. Now, you don't want to show that and you push that to the side, but when that final whistle goes, that's what you feel just lifted off you.
There seemed a truth in those moments with your players in the aftermath. It had been suggested late that you lost the locker room. The evidence visually was that wasn't true.
Yeah, no, look, and that, how do you know these things? But I don't think so. Look, again, 4 years ago, I kind of took the job and I set us off on this path. I said, we're going to be bold, we're going to be ambitious. That doesn't come without its sort of trepidation in terms of the obstacles and the challenges, because it's never going to be smooth. The one thing I promised the players all along is that we're going to share the good stuff, but the bad stuff is going to be my responsibility. If we don't qualify, if we didn't win the Asian Cup, if we went to the last World Cup and we got embarrassed in any way, I would be the man in front of that. And I did that because I think they needed to show the courage on the field to play the way I wanted them to. And my payback for that was, you know what, I'll be the shield, I'll be the person who takes responsibility if it falls over. So this last sort of period where the heat's been on me, scrutiny about my position, all that kind of stuff. In many ways, I brought it onto myself to show the players that, look, if this doesn't go well, they're going to come for me. You're protected. I don't think I needed to do it to that extent because I think the players already believe. But again, I never, the dressing room, the sanctity of that, I really believed in it. We all believed in it. And again, I didn't do this as some noble crusade that, I wanted to be a martyr. I believed in it too. I kind of believed we'd be successful. But I wanted the players to know that what I said to them from day one is that if this falls over at any time, it's all on me, that they saw that in a kind of public sense.
So when are you going to meet with the hierarchy of the FFA?
Yeah, it'll happen this week. It's got to happen quickly. I'm not, again, you don't want to be continually asked, and I've tried to be as honest as I can with people about saying, well, it'll all be decided after this game. It wasn't sort of, me just trying to string people along, and it will, and it'll happen quickly, and I'll have those discussions this week, and we'll come to a resolution.
Have you got a decision in mind before you go into that meeting?
Oh, look, it kind of fluctuates all the time.
So fluctuate gives us hope, to be frank, Ange, if you're not locked to a position.
Yeah. No, I can't say that I'm locked to a position. Look, there are things there that, for a whole range of reasons, that some are fairly personal, some are private, some are just me as a person, and some are professional that all need to be sort of put into place. And what's going to be good for the team is also a consideration. So all those things will get discussed this week, and like I said, there'll be a quick resolution. So
there are obviously issues that you have to work through. What about is there any merit in... The country needs you, Ange, to take this Socceroos team to Russia. Does that carry any weight? Yeah,
of course it does, and it's why I kind of, took the job. I thought it was the perfect time for someone like me to take that job 4 years ago. It needed somebody who understood the game, who understood the players, who understood our culture. It couldn't be a foreigner. So... And I get that, and I get seeing it through. I've built this. So obviously that is part of it, but it's not, like I said, and it's hard to explain. It's just me as a person, and there are certain things that I need to process and feel comfortable about before I make a decision. I'm
sure part of this is the peculiarities of football and the horrendously drawn-out qualification process, and how much that takes out of a team and a coach. But as someone who, as an outsider, you've got them this far. Why wouldn't you take them to the next World Cup? Yeah,
so I guess that's a bit that's it's very hard for me to explain without kind of going into all these other areas. But I would suggest, even an outsider, you'd appreciate it have to be fairly compelling, because I'm the one that's giving up something now. I'm the one that's giving up the opportunity to take my country to another World Cup and experience all that entails, and the opportunity that could come from it. So, and it's very hard, like I said, without me going into these other areas to explain it. But I've got to be comfortable with it. I like the midnight shift. I like the hard stuff, and we're getting to dawn, and I get agitated. I get. You're
just at the beginning of another midnight shift, are you not? With the World Cup?
Maybe it's an endless midnight shift. I don't know that I'm looking for, but that's just me.
It sounds to me like this is a message that to somebody up there at head office. If they say the right thing to you this week, you'll stay.
Yeah, look, and again, I think
that can be said.
Yeah, it's a little bit simplified. A lot of people try to make out that I have some sort of broken relationship with David Gallop or Stephen. That doesn't exist. It's not the way I work. I don't work with people to become friends. It becomes a relationship where, I need to be supported to do what I need to do, and they've supported me 100%. There's nothing that I've asked for. But so it's never a relationship thing with me. It goes deeper and far beyond that. And like I said, some of it's just me that people will not understand. And even if I explain it, they're still going to say, no, we don't really get you. So, but I can't change who I am.
Why do you feel like an outsider in the sport that you have? Yeah. You've been such a powerful figure for the crossover of football to try to break out of its niche here. You've published a manifesto. You've brought people from all other codes to the sport in a way that I don't think anybody else has been able to. And yet, my heart ached for you when you used the word outsider in your own sport.
Yeah, and it's been mentioned to me probably Probably should have said offside rather than outside. That maybe, because people close to me kind of said the same thing, that you can't be an outsider. Look, that was probably me just trying to have a little bit of a dig at a certain part of the football community where I feel that I'll always be an outsider. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that I want to be an insider. I kind of, as I said, I tried to explain that. That's what's kind of fueled me along the way, is that I just don't want to be what other people want me to be in terms of an Australian football person. And part of that process over the last 20 years I've been coaching is to do that, is to be inclusive of the whole country, to understand the Australian sporting culture, not just the Australian football culture. And that, I guess, sometimes it's hard to understand for a certain part of the football community, and I'm allowed one dig, I kind of held my tongue and I kind of had a little slide dig, and it was probably out of order, and I accept that, but I've got to get something out of it.
Well, it's also a really powerful, and it's been repeated in Australian sport, the outsider paradigm. There are very successful coaches, players who have always thought of themselves as outsiders, and I would even say it's something to do with the Australian temperament. We're not like the rest of you. We are outsiders, and often that feeling of being outside the club has produced some really powerful results in all sectors of our society.
All right.
Thanks, mate.
I hope you do.
FFA Cup final this week, plus the Matildas in town, but I'm going to go a week early because I need the whole of Australia to give positive vibes. The World Cup draw is December the 1st. I don't want the group of death. Regardless, we cannot get the group of death.
You sound like a man invested, Ange.
Always.
Always searching.